Hello, everybody. Welcome into the NBA Front Office Show. Happy Wednesday. It's that time of year. We've got stuff going on. We've got moves being made, Woj bombs being dropped. Keith, let's go. I'm ready for it. I feel like the starter's pistol has gone off, and now we're going at an easy pace to start. We're pacing ourselves, but we know pretty soon we're going to be picking it up, and we already got the first few things coming out today. I'm excited. This is going to be an exhausting part of the year, but God, I love this time of year too. It's so much fun.
Yeah, we've got a really busy month ahead of ourselves. I put something out there on Twitter today that anybody who covers the NBA understands is family friend says, "Hey, the finals are over, so now you get a break. That must be nice." And it's like, well, in August, well, except this year there is the Olympics, so I don't know. We'll see. But yeah, man, it was fun this morning to wake up because I was up. I was getting some work done, getting some writing done, and I'm sitting here like, oh man, we got kind of nothing yet. Hopefully something comes out. And then it was like, bing, bing, then a little pause and then another thing. And
Yep.
now we've got a good show. So where do you want to start? Dealer's choice.
Let's start here. I think this is the most shocking thing. Monty Williams is getting paid tens of millions of dollars to not coach the Detroit Pistons. Not a bad Keith, I will take millions upon millions.
Yeah.
I will take less than that to not coach the Detroit Pistons. That's not a bad gig. The Pistons decide to part ways with Monty Williams. I guess we joke about it, and that was the general response on social media and everything. But I also think that there's an admirable aspect to this too. If you're the Pistons and you really believe, hey, we made a mistake. Monty's not the guy. He's not the right fit moving forward. We've got new people in charge with Trajan Langdon that, hey, we're going to commit this money. If we really believe that the path forward is not with Monty, it sucks, but we'd rather pay him this money to not coach rather than have the wrong guy in charge. So I think that's some solace for Pistons fans, but still, this is a lot of money to pay somebody to not do the job that you hired them for.
Yeah, at the end of the day, Pistons fans should not really care about how much Monty Williams is being paid unless ownership turns around and says, we can't sign player X because we owe Monty Williams $13 million or whatever. There's no salary cap for coaches. So this is just dead money on ownership's ledger. There's nothing on the Pistons salary cap sheet or anything like that for this. So if it turns into cheaping out elsewhere, that'd be a problem. But I'm with you. I said this in relation to the Grant Williams trade this year for Dallas, which ended up working out wonderfully. The number one mistake teams make is we just signed player or coach and it's not working out, but we just signed them. We can't move on already. We have to give it time. If you know early on we made a mistake, there is no reason to compound that mistake by sticking with the bad hire, bad signing, bad trade, whatever it was. Move on. That is sometimes you can make it so much worse for yourself if you just, well, we have to see it through. No, you don't. This is sports. You can move on. And if you're willing to pay a guy 65 million and change to sit home, then by all means, do that. So I like for the Pistons too, fully fresh start now. Trajan Langdon gets to hire his own coach, gets to hire his own staff. That's already been well in process. Gets to really reshape the roster to a large degree the way he wants to. A lot of cap space, a lot of free agents there, a lot of stuff he can do. So I'm really, really excited for the Pistons to kind of get this full, fresh new start as opposed to kind of sort of a fresh start, but there's still pieces we're dealing with from the previous group and all that. So this will be good for them.
Well, that's a concern there that every new group that comes in, they want to have their people in place.
Sure.
Sometimes there's such a desire to be able to say, look, I came in and I changed X, Y, and Z, that you wind up making changes that maybe you didn't need to. Think about Chris Traeger when he took over in Parks and Rec. And next thing you know, Donna Meagle is typing with a keyboard that has like arms going off to the side. And she's typing 12 words a minute. And those words are per flippity snap or whatever it was. It was a great line. And Ron Swanson's at a circular desk in the middle of everybody.
That one was just on this past weekend.
Was it? That was a great episode. Yeah. Great episode.
Yeah,
but
fantastic.
The point is, though, you get new powers coming in. And they often want to be able to make changes to point to all the things that they did. And it doesn't always mean it's a good change. But like you said, if they have come to the conclusion, and I would think if you're going to sell ownership on this, you have to be pretty damn convinced. I can only imagine what that conversation was like. Hey, we'd like you to sign off on paying this guy, what I think it's 65 million
Yeah, 65 million plus is what the wording was.
To go away, to not coach for the team. You'd have to be pretty damn convincing that this was the correct move to make, and you move on. And this is going to be the way to move forward with the franchise. Again, James Borrego is already a name that's being connected to the Pistons. Maybe we get a little tug of war between the Cavs and the Pistons over Borrego now. That'll be fascinating to watch. But for as many people are kind of clowning the Pistons right now for making this move, ultimately, if this is really what they believe they have to do, then you give them credit for being willing to pay the price.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, moving on from your mistakes is huge. So let's talk about James Borrego for a minute here, because as far as we know, still in the running for the Lakers job too, because we're sitting here now a couple days out from the finals ending, and JJ Redick is not the Lakers coach yet. So I'm not saying that he's not going to be, or that there's any reason to panic or anything like that, but hasn't happened yet. So if the Lakers or the Cavs have any designs on hiring James Borrego, they probably need to get on that and get on that today, because a couple things. Now I'm connecting the dots a little bit here. I'll cue up the Windhorse finger wagging, right? Trajan Langdon came from the Pelicans. We got news earlier this week that the Pelicans were hiring Fred Vinson as their the Pistons were hiring Fred Vinson as their top assistant coach, came from the Pelicans. A little weird you would hire a top assistant and then turn around and fire the head coach. James Borrego, where is he most recently with? The Pelicans. So you could easily come in, Trajan Langdon, James Borrego, Fred Vinson. There's your new kind of leadership trio under Pistons ownership. All have time together, successful time together with the Pelicans. And now there's your new group that moves forward with leading the Pistons. On connecting dots quite a bit there, obviously. Maybe I'm reading the tea leaves the wrong way, but that seems to be something that could make a lot of sense.
No, that makes a lot of sense. I hadn't thought of it that way, but you Sherlock Holmes that thing, Keith. That's that was pretty well done.
We'll see. And if I was wrong, we can always go back and edit this out later, because
there you go. We'll just cut it. No, that makes a lot of sense. And in fact, until you said that, I would have said, man, if I'm James Borrego, I'm taking the Cavs job over the Pistons job and everything. But now that you mentioned that, if you know you've got that kind of support around you, the Pistons seem like they have essentially set themselves up to welcome in James Borrego. And you have to wonder if that conversation was already had. In addition to when I was talking about how difficult that conversation is to sell to ownership, it's an easier sell if you say, and we've already got the guy. We've already got the new coach that's going to be coming in. We've had these conversations with James Borrego. We know he's on board or he's willing to do that. Yet, now that you say that, to me, I would put the Pistons as now the team in the driver's seat to land Borrego. When you add up all those pieces to the puzzle, it makes the most sense.
Yeah, I think there's just often people go where they have a comfort level, right?
Yes.
You go and hire the coaches, you go and trade sometimes for the players, sometimes you sign the players, teams. Yeah, it's a lot. It's that wasn't quite as big a thing in the NBA, but it's become more of a big thing. That was a huge thing in the NFL for years and years. It'd be like a new coach gets hired and then he goes and acquires like 3 of his former players, because it's like, I can bring these guys in to help the new guys learn my way.
He can run my system.
Exactly. Right. So now I feel like we've seen some of that come in the NBA more in recent years. So yeah, I think that could be how this goes. They give her James Borrego. I thought he did a really nice job with the Hornets. All things considered, that's not an easy place to win, especially wasn't an easy place to win under MJ. I think the roster building went a little sideways, but I like coaching wise. I think he's a good coach, and as bad as it looks right now for the Pistons coming out, what were they, 14-68 or whatever it was, coming off that horrendous season with the 28 game losing streak and everything, I think you can really wake up today and kind of say, all right, new start. Like they've got some talent. Cade Cunningham, for as bad as the team was, took major steps forward himself this year. So I just finished writing my rookie scale projections piece for Spot Track. And it went posted yesterday, I think it was, or maybe the day before. But it's been up now for a couple days. In that piece, I projected that Cunningham's going to get the max extension, and I have no issue with that. I think
Yeah.
that's where you're going with this. So yeah, Pistons rough year, but future is bright.
Now, as far as Monty Williams goes, is what happens with every player, every coach, whatever. Could he go to the Lakers? Right, that comes up.
Sure.
Shams Charania said he doesn't see that connection there. I don't think it makes sense either. Woj had in his piece that Monty Williams' wife has been dealing with cancer. I don't know what the situation is there. I know that was a concern last year when Monty Williams took the Pistons job. There was kind of that sense that he didn't really want the job. They just threw so much money at him he couldn't say no. If I'm Monty Williams, and again, especially if the health situation with his family is still a question, I'm not coaching this year. I'm not coaching. And even if everything's good, and hopefully that's the case, hopefully everything is fine with his family at this point. I don't know what the situation is, but even if everything is fine on the family side, if I'm Monty Williams, man, you're going to get paid for the next 5 years, more money than people need to live out the remaining. He could do nothing else for the rest of his life and be a very, very wealthy man. I'm taking the next year off. I'm not coaching. And a lot of these guys, I know this is what they do. They drive themselves crazy if they aren't coaching, and I get that. So some people are wired differently, but man, if it's me, I'm sitting on a beach with a tropical drink for a year at least and just chilling.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you. Like you said, didn't really want to seemingly coach this year anyway, and then the Pistons gave him an offer he couldn't refuse, literally, and now here we are. So yeah, I would take the year off. If you want to do something basketball wise, you go find a coach you really like and consult or whatever, or do the Tom Thibodeau thing that he did when he was out of coaching for the year, is bounce around other teams and go learn from other coaches and other places like that. He wouldn't be surprised, maybe he pops up and does some TV if he wants to do that. Sure. But yeah, take the year off and then let everything settle down, reset, and find a better job in a better place. I don't think he's done as a coach. I think he's he was too good as a coach and too I think he's still too young to be fully done. But yeah, I'm with you. Take the year off and reset.
Yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on to a deal.
Yeah.
Agreed to verbally anyway. Pascal Siakam, an agreement on a deal with the Pacers. This is essentially what we were expecting to see here, but still, the first of the free agent deals comes to fruition here, and Pascal Siakam is going to stick with Indiana. We knew this was probably going to be the case. $189.5 million deal to stick with the Pacers. 4 years. This is pretty much what we thought it was going to be. He can't officially sign it till July 6th, of course, but this is what we were expecting. The Pacers, when they traded for Pascal Siakam, it was not with the idea that they were going to let him go in just a few months. It was that they were going to keep him long-term, and that is indeed what's going to happen here.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's funny, I saw, as happens with any deal that is this big, people checked in with, it's too much money. This is crazy. How are they paying this guy this much money? It's a 30% of the cap max. That's where it starts. And then it'll actually go down as a percent of the cap each year, because although he's getting the 8% raises, cap is projected to grow 10% throughout the course of the life of this deal. So we're going to see him actually make less percent of the cap. I think it finishes at 27%, almost 28% by the end, but it'll go down a little bit. So that's the thing to really know with these max contracts. And he was always going to get a max deal, because if they didn't give it to him, there was going to be a team or two out there sitting that would have said, hey, we'll do it. We'll make it happen, because he's that good of a player. He's an all-star level guy. He was a perfect fit with the Pacers because he likes to play up tempo. He fits in that running scheme along with Halliburton. He's a guy too, when Halliburton is out, you could throw the ball to Siakam and say, all right, we're going to play through you right now. Is your ceiling limited if that's where you fall to? Sure, but your ceiling's limited if Tyrese Halliburton's out anyway. At least he can keep you afloat in games. He can keep you competitive. And that Pacers team, they give Boston a run, even though they get swept. Those games were pretty competitive. They're right there with the Celtics and most of them. And Halliburton missed roughly a game and a half of that series, I think, or 2.5, whatever it was. But so for them to lock in is fine. Now, what happens next? They've got a couple other free agents to look at. Their starting five is all in place. Obi Toppin's a restricted free agent. What happens with him? He's probably the biggest free agent left for them on their board here. But, Siakam locked in. Good stuff. And got him 4 years and not 5. He's a little older than I think people think because came into the league a little bit older. But 4 years is better than 5 years. And that's where it's at.
Yeah, he is 30. In fact, just turned 30 back in April. So, but 4-year deal, you're going to have him for most likely the remainder of his prime. And, I think that's this is the right move for the Pacers to make. So you keep a guy who fit pretty well with them last year, and you get to build upon what we saw from them this past season. Let's jump over to Gary Payton II. There was some talk about him maybe opting out. That's not going to happen. He is opting into his deal, which I thought made sense. What is he at? 9 million. I'm pulling up the salaries right now. 9 million.
Yeah. 9.13, I think.
Okay. So there it is. Gary Payton II. Yeah. 9.13 million. He'll be a free agent after the season, 32 years old, but I don't know what kind of money would have been out there for him on the market. And so to me, it made sense for him to take this $9 million right now. And then he'll hit the market next summer. So this will be kind of a prove it year for him to potentially get his next big deal and see if he can cash in once again. But 9.13 million. Now the Warriors have that certainty that money is on their books. We've talked about them maybe trying to clear some salary space. Chris Paul certainly can be $30 million you can wipe off the books, and we're expecting them to do that. Do you think this pushes the Warriors more towards moving off of Kevon Looney with Gary Payton II now in at 9.13 million?
Yeah, it may. The thought process with Payton was that he might opt out, then resign for the Warriors for the same money, but over 2 or 3 years. So that way they knock his number way down this year, but he adds on a year or 2 years on the back end of his career. And now you're going to be with 9 million on the books. That's not a bad number for Gary Payton II by any means.
You can move him.
Oh, go ahead. What was that?
Oh, I was going to say you could. That's not like a number you can't move. Like if they really need the cap space, they could move him in a second.
Yeah, without a doubt. And then the challenge is it's just 9 million you maybe thought was only going to be 3 or 4 million on the books. So now, Kevon Looney, I think he's guaranteed 3 million of his 8 million. So if you need to, you move on from him, save yourself 5 million there. I continue to believe. I think Chris Paul gets waived because I'm really. I very rarely take ownership at face value when they're like, we got to cut costs a little bit, because I think that's just something that gets said and then it doesn't happen. But I think the Warriors are really in a spot where it is, hey, we can really start resetting everything for ourselves here. Let's do this. And I think with Chris Paul, I think because the team's not a surefire title contender as currently structured, that would have led me to, well, you trade that 30 million for a more useful 30 million in your team structure and you just keep rolling forward. But I don't think they're there. And I don't think there's a deal to make using that 30 million. So I think Chris Paul gets waived, and I think the Warriors will be at a minimum under the aprons, but potentially maybe even out of the tax entirely when all is said and done.
That's crazy.
Yeah,
that's crazy to think of, given where they've been. To suddenly be out of the tax completely. Wow. Yep. All right. Let's jump ahead to draft stuff. The NBA draft. All right. We've got some exciting times coming up with the draft. We are what is it now? A week away?
Yeah.
A week. Here we go. The NBA draft, there's already rumors about teams potentially moving up, teams potentially moving out, different guys that teams are targeting, risers, fallers, all that kind of stuff. Keith, we've talked about it. I think the fact that there is no clear cut, this is the number one pick type of guy, and there is the sense that this draft is a little bit flatter than most, and that maybe there's no top tier superstars. I do think there's some guys who can really help teams in this draft, just not that kind of, hey, we're going to build our franchise around this guy. That type of player doesn't appear to be in this draft, but I think that's going to create more mobility and maybe some excitement on draft night with a lot of moves being made. So we've seen today the Rockets have been linked to Reed Shepherd with the number 3 pick, but I've also seen them linked to Donovan Clingan there. Keith, I know we were talking a little bit off air. You mentioned that there's some rumors right now that teams could try to move up in order to get Donovan Clingan. I'm assuming Memphis was involved. Who else would be looking to make that kind of a move?
Yeah, Memphis was involved. The other teams that have mentioned, Utah has been mentioned. Oklahoma City was the team that was mentioned in that mix as well. One of the thought processes around this is there's a belief that the Atlanta Hawks are choosing between Zachary Risachet and Klingon as the number 1 overall pick, not Alex Sarr. The rumors have been that they've not had Sarr in for a workout yet and haven't even been able to get one scheduled. And as they say, it's starting to get kind of late early around here. Like we're getting there, right? We're down to a week, and a lot of these guys don't prefer to do draft workouts the day or two before the draft. That's usually, if you hear team had another player in a day or two before the draft, either it's a really, really good smokescreen or they're extremely interested in drafting that player. So if it's between Risachet and Klingon, what we're looking at here is the Hawks probably would lean Risachet, just seems like the higher value prospect. Then that would leave Klingon. Then you go through the next several teams. If he got past Washington, which the Intel, a lot of this is coming from ESPN, did a Intel-based mock draft. So not a, this is what we think should happen, but really this is where we think things are going. They said Washington is content to take whoever Atlanta doesn't take out of Risachet and Sarr. So that leaves Sarr probably the guy that Washington takes. Well, then you get to Houston, San Antonio, Detroit, and who am I missing at 6? Charlotte.
Yeah.
None of those teams are in the market to really draft a center. So that's where it becomes Klingon could be available, and those teams could pick up additional draft capital by somebody else trading up and into one of their spots. And they may still be able to get the guy they want anyway, provided they're not trading back too far.
I've seen a few mocks and including the ESPN one, the latest ESPN one, where he's at 7 to the like that maybe speaks to what I was talking about when we first started this segment. The fact that you've got a guy whose range could be the number 1 overall pick to 7.
Yeah.
Like
huge.
We don't typically see this in the NBA draft. Usually when we're talking about the top of the draft, a dude's range is 1 or 1, right? Or maybe 1 through 3 tops, right?
Maybe,
1 through 7, like that's crazy.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And that lends to, I've been calling this a beauty in the eye of the beholder draft, where it is, if you really like a guy, then you may really like him and another team may not. And we may see some guys get drafted higher than people have seen them in mock drafts and the like, because the team may say, we really like this kid and we don't think we can get back into the draft, or we don't think he'll be there at X pick or whatever. And a lot of times what happens is, let's use Klingon as an example. If you're the Grizzlies sitting with the 9th pick, you probably know he's not going to be there at 9.
Yeah.
And it gets to 4 or 5 or 6. You may start looking at it and saying, all right, let's go. Let's move up there. We're going to offer 9, and one of our kids is kind of the ballast, maybe a future pick in addition, or swap or something. And we're going to move up a few spots and we're going to get him because we love him. We have a need for him, and let's go. So that's going to be the kind of stuff to keep an eye on there with that. I think what you said off the jump, it's a flat draft. Flat drafts tend to mean a lot of movement happens up and down the board because teams are willing to make those kind of trades.
Yeah, so that could really open things up for those draft night trades, which means we could have a lot of fun while we're live covering the draft. We'll be right here on the Front Office Show YouTube channel. By the way, if you're interested in the draft, Bryce has tons of great stuff over on our Substack, which is the Basketball Bulletin. He has his scouting reports on a ton of different players that are out there. I mean, just an absolute insane amount of content up here on the Substack. I'll put the link in the description down below. You guys can go check that out. Don't forget to check out the YouTube channel as well. I've got something new coming up there today about, or perhaps tomorrow early, depending on when our editor gets done with it, about free agency as well. So be on the lookout for those things. But the Basketball Bulletin Substack, man, so much great information on there from Bryce Simon on the draft.
Yeah, and I've already been talking with Bryce where he's like already ramped up and ready to go with stuff for next year's class when this one wraps up. Like he's already got ideas he wants to do and those kind of things. So yeah, I mean, he is as locked in on this stuff as can be. He's put a lot of great stuff out there for us, and his notes are very easy to consume. They're notebook style, so you're just kind of hopping in and out of these various notes that he took on all of these guys, and he's well into the 30s now of players covered. We're deep in a second round kind of guys. So if there's a player you really like in the draft, Bryce has probably covered him with a scouting report.
Yeah, it's very quick, easy to digest. Gives you some quick notes from a scout's perspective on each player, which is absolutely fantastic. So again, guys, go check that out. Anything else that we need to cover in terms of draft rumors and news and things of that nature?
Yeah, I think the only other two minor things with the draft were we talked about the Risachet and Sar stuff
Yeah,
at the top. There's been a little bit of buzz, as you mentioned, with the Rockets. There's been some talk of the Spurs could be looking to package their two picks, fourth and eighth, to move up, maybe to number one. But the Hawks, that was pretty quickly beat down, that the Hawks aren't looking to move off the first pick. So that's going to be, stuff that will continue here over the next week. Probably continue to hear options for trading up or teams trading back, teams trading out. And then the only other thing I want to mention, ESPN did it. They, in this mock draft, their latest mock draft, number 555 to the LA Lakers, Bronny James.
there it is.
They did it. We have been saying for feels like at least a month now, since the draft order was pretty well locked in, that is his floor.
Yep.
He will get drafted by the Lakers 55th. I have to believe, if he's still on the board. So we'll go. We didn't cover it today too. I just wanted, it's not draft related, but throw it out there. We didn't cover any of this LeBron to the Suns stuff. For me personally, I don't know, unless LeBron really is like, I'll take a minimum to go there.
Yeah.
And I don't think he's doing that. There's no way that's going to happen. Like, I know people have suggested, well, maybe he takes exact salary that matches with Devin Booker or something like that, but not to dash anybody's dreams, but I don't think the Suns are trading Devin Booker for LeBron. Like, that wouldn't make sense. Like, we're now at the point where LeBron's age actually does matter. Like, we don't know if he's got a year or 2 years or 3 years left. You're not trading for LeBron thinking, all right, I don't care that he's older, I'm still getting 3 or 4 years out of him. Now teams are like, 1 year, would that be worth it? So that's why, I just want to put that out there, because I saw people asking questions about that. I think it was in your mention some over on Twitter. I know it was in mine. I just don't see a realistic path that makes sense. When I can't see a realistic path that makes sense, I don't tend to want to spend a ton of time on it.
Well, I think there's a few things here. And first and foremost, it's, people say, oh, the Suns are ridiculous because they're bringing in Bronny, right, for another workout. That's one of the rumors that's out there, that they're bringing him in for another workout. And now the Suns have no cap space. How do they expect to get LeBron? Oh, they're not going to get him for a minimum and all that kind of stuff. And look, we hear this all the time. All fan bases hear this. Oh, you guys are ridiculous. You're overvaluing your players. You guys think you can get everybody, all that kind of stuff. And Suns fans hear that when they talk about, could you get LeBron? Would he join for a minimum just to play with his son? Thing is, teams have to be having those conversations. Sure. You have to. If you're not having that conversation, if you're not exploring that option, you're not doing your job. Yep. You have to do that. You have to have that conversation. So I don't fault the Suns or anybody else for at least saying, hey, maybe this is something worth exploring. It might be a fast no, but you might as well find out, right? So I don't think that's bad. Now, if it becomes a situation where LeBron says, hey, I want to get paid and I want to go to Phoenix, and he goes to the Lakers and he says, please trade me, and you get Devin Booker out of it, like, the Lakers should be doing backflips. If that's right, if that's the outcome. Now, if it's like a Bradley Beal trade or something like that, that's where it starts to get a little. That's where, with the dark timeline continues to grow. But
that's when I'm shipping you green clothing, and you're coming over to the good side here, my friend.
That's where the no trade clause starts to become. I'm going to be screaming no trade clause in my sleep at that point. But I think this is the kind of thing that is going to pop up this time of year. Sure. And a lot of people get upset about it or whatever. But again, these are the conversations you have to have. And it's the way it goes this time of year. You have to, I think in general, just a general PSA, like, this time of year, you have to take stuff with a grain of salt. Me, it doesn't bother me. I love all the different possibilities this time of year. For some people, it gets to them and they get upset about, all I hear are these rumors and this and that and the other. And then this doesn't happen and that doesn't happen. Well, yeah, but that to me is some of the beauty of the NBA offseason. There's so many endless possibilities that get discussed. So just take it for what it is and enjoy the ride.
I did a article. It was based on, I talked to people who were in the league, people who had been in the league, about what it was really like to talk trade with Danny Ainge and Mike Zarin. This was when Ainge was still running the Celtics.
Yeah.
Because there was all this stuff of like Ainge will like he's gonna try to get blood from a stone and firstborn children rights and all this other stuff from it. And I talked to a lot of people, and one of the things that was repeated over and over was, and I've known this for years, but it was just good to have people say this in quotes, was NBA teams literally talk trade every single day.
Yep.
Someone is throwing around, hey, what's going on with this? What's going on with that? They don't stop working. These teams keep going. They're not very different from what we do, minus they're doing it at a level where it is, one, really matters, and two, it is what is the what like it starts conversations of well it's
they're
funny
getting
because,
information too out of you. They're finding out info.
Yep.
They're finding out how you value certain players.
Yeah, you don't want to trade that guy? Okay, well, what about this guy? Oh, but you would trade that guy if we're willing to offer this guy. Okay. And maybe, lo and behold, we don't like that guy as much as you like him. So maybe there is something that comes out of that trade. Those conversations happening all the time. And I'll say this too at this time of year. Every single team in the NBA, their fans are like, oh, I can't trade him. He's untouchable. There are literally maybe 5 untouchable players in the entire NBA. And we could go through who they are, but this is where I always thought Bill Simmons' trade value column was really good because he ranked them in order, and it was anybody who's above you on the list, you better be bringing more to the table. But anybody who's below you on the list, like, yeah, you would think about it that way. And now I'd probably used above and below in a weird way there, but if you're number 1 on the list, you're not getting traded for anybody. If you're number 2, you're probably not getting traded. Anybody except for you might get traded for number 1. Yeah. Right. And I always thought that was a good way to think about it. Like it's the number of people who say they're untouchable. Untouchable is not true. Really hard to trade for, very unlikely to get traded. That's very, very true. That's obviously there. But stars get traded in the NBA all the time. So that is where I don't rule anything out. And yeah, at some point, somebody will pull the unthinkable and say, you know what, I'm fine. I'll take a minimum deal to sign on that. It's like that guy could have made $30 million or whatever. It will happen because everything will happen eventually. Just like a team will come back from down 0-3. It will happen in the NBA. But until it does, I'm going to continue to operate like, I don't know. What did Nick Fury say? I'm going to act like the world will still spin on until such time when it doesn't.
Yeah.
Like, that's me. So.
That's right. That was in the first Avengers. That's right. It's a good line. It's a good line.
Squeezed in a Marvel reference. And what was our other reference earlier? You made it.
We got in Parks and Rec. Yeah. We got in Parks and Rec. We got in the Avengers.
Yep.
And and I can't wait for Deadpool coming out. And
man, I'm so excited. Yeah. About a month now, right?
What's the
It's like the Friday in between Summer League and the Olympics.
I thought doesn't the US play on July 26th? Because that's the Deadpool release date. So. I hope I'm wrong.
I have it. Hold on. I'm going to tell you. The US Opens play on the 28th.
Okay.
At 11:15 a.m. Eastern time.
That was going to be a busy day otherwise.
That Friday. Yeah, it slots in like Summer League ends slightly like earlier that week, I think. It ends on Monday the 22nd, and then 26th, day before the Olympics start.
Let's go.
And I will be up at 5 a.m. Eastern if anybody wants to tweet with me on the 27th, watching Australia versus one of the qualified teams when we get there. So
you're going to be up that early to watch the Australia game?
Yeah, of course. It's the Olympics. You know how I'll be dying for basketball by that point. Like Summer League will have been over for about 5 days at that point. I'll be raring to go. Plus, it's only like an hour earlier than I get up anyway. So
I'll be on one of my last days on a cruise ship. I will be in no shape to get up early. That's going to be that.
Well, that means you did it right then on your cruise.
For sure.
All right,
everybody. Well, thank you again for joining. Make sure you do subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to go check out the Basketball Bulletin. We're going to keep you up to date with everything going on in the NBA world as we get into a very, very busy time of the year. So again, subscribe, turn on those notifications. Never know what's going to happen at any moment in the NBA right now.
We might see you later today. Who knows?
You never know. Like every time my phone goes off right now, Keith, I'm not
Same.
fully jumping, not like when I was on Dan Hurley watch jumping, but it's a little bit of like, could it?
Yeah.
Oh, maybe this is something, like it's
I'm not fully locked into trade deadline week mode or
no, not
draft
quite.
week or first week of free agency, but I'm not close from that either.
No, it's not August where the phone buzzes and I'm like, meh, it's nothing.
Yeah.
All right, everybody.
August. Was that a Dame Lillard trade? Did it
that's
happen?
right.
Was that Dame Lillard? Yeah.
Dames of our lives.
Well, hopefully we get something fun. We'll come up with something else.
We need to. We should have, if I had known it was going to last this long, we would have come up with something for JJ Redick.
Oh man, I know. I don't know what it would have been, but yeah.
Yeah, we would have come up with. Did you see somebody? I know I technically ended the show like 4 minutes ago, but did you see somebody in our comments yesterday came up with a name for your live show?
I haven't seen it yet.
The Front Office Feast.
All right, I like it.
I kind of like that. I thought that was pretty good. The Front Office Feast, because I do lunchtime with the Lakers.
Yeah,
we were trying to find alliteration. Front Office Feast.
Yeah, there we go. It could be fun.
Yeah.
We'll see. We'll figure something out. Yeah, we're gonna probably start those next week. I'm thinking maybe we'll do a couple of them, and then we'll really kick in high gear in between the draft and free agency starting, and then it's something I plan to do semi-regularly throughout the course of the summertime, even after the offseason slows down. So we'll figure it out.
All right. Well, with that, again, hit that subscribe button. Till next time, everybody. See ya and stay safe.